Today we're talking about not having any close friends. This is something that is very relatable to me just because I see that I don't really have any close friends or any best friends. Nobody that I hang out with on at least a weekly basis. That's what I would consider a close friend, is where you see them at least once a week or you're hanging out with them. But this is something that I noticed. Also, a couple articles that I got here for you guys today. As you'll notice, as you start aging, you're going to start getting fewer and fewer friends, and I'll explain briefly real quick on that just so you guys kind of understand the reasoning why that is. So essentially, basically, if you guys went to high school or college, you guys would notice that you have tons and tons of friends, but then as soon as you graduated or you guys start going your own directions, like from school, you start having less and less friends. You don't hang out with your friends as much, or your friends get girlfriends, or they just get into relationships, and you realize you're not hanging out with your friends as much, and you're like, what the heck? I used to hang out with all kinds of friends. I used to have best friends and all that, but then I don't even have anybody. And this is something that is very relatable. I had a friend that essentially he got into a relationship, and I haven't talked to him in about, I would say, like a year and a half, 2 years, and that was pretty much that friendship. Then I have another friend, which kind of shows me that we're not close friends. I do hang out with them once in a while, and this is something that I noticed on social media, was that it was his birthday, and he was pretty much out partying with a bunch of friends, and it made me realize that I wasn't even invited. But I was like, that's okay. To me, that doesn't really matter, but what it made me realize is what type of friend I am to that person, and it shows that I'm not a close friend. And I'm just sharing with you guys my personal experience because I want to be relatable to you guys. I want you guys to understand that, hey, it's okay to not have any close friends, that you guys will essentially, you should be okay with it. This is something that it doesn't really bother me, just because like I have things that I got to focus on. I have priorities, and you have to realize that basically all your friends have their own priorities and their own things that they're focusing on, and that's why you don't really make time for each other. The other thing is reaching out. A lot of people don't reach out to each other, and it's funny as it is, you have social media where you can see what your friends are doing or whatever, and nobody reaches out. Oh, okay, well, hey, are you down to hang out or whatever? Anyways, going on to the articles for you guys so you guys can kind of see the statistics on it, and then also as you age, you're going to get fewer and fewer friends. So this is something that's going to just happen naturally. So this is by the New York Post. Americans have fewer friends than ever before study. Americans are lonelier than they were 30 years ago, according to a study published the Survey Center on American Life. With U.S. population numbering at least 336 million, you'd think we'd at least suffer from a lack of people in our lives. Nonetheless, a recent survey found that the majority of Americans have fewer friends than they did 3 decades ago. So in 30 years, people have fewer friends. So it just shows the amount of time that's really increased. And this is something that I think as time kind of starts going by, it's going to be actually the amount of friends that people have, that's actually going to shrink. Science suggests that role of friends in American social life is experiencing a pronounced decline, according to a May study published by the Survey Center on American Life. Study authors revealed that Americans report having fewer close friendships than they once did, talking to their friends less often, and relying less on their friends for personal support. So this is something that I kind of noticed, is when you don't really have any close friends, you don't really rely on them for personal support. The other thing is the generation that we just live in. We live in a day and age where things are a lot simpler, a lot easier, so you don't really need to rely on anybody. The alarming findings were based on interviews with 2019 Americans aged 18 and up from all 50 states as well as Washington, D.C. Per the shocking study, nearly half of all Americans, 49%, reported having fewer than 3 close friends. This marks a nearly twofold increase from 1990, when less than 1/3, 27% of Americans had 3 or fewer close friends. So it's 27%. We'll just round down. So basically a quarter of people. But then again, this study is based off of 2019 people, so it's not a whole lot. You can't judge the whole 300 and what is it? I'm trying to think. You can't judge the 336 million people based off of just a study of 2,000 people. But it shows based off of those 2,000 people, a quarter of them, which is about 500, essentially they had less than 3 close friends. During that year, 33% reported having 10 or more close friends, compared to just 13% today. If that wasn't bad enough, a mind-boggling 12% of interviewees claimed to have 0 friends today, 4 times as many as 30 years ago, per the survey. So that is really shocking. 12%, which, if you're to say, basically, going based off of this number, I would say about 10%, rounding down again, just to make the math a little bit easy. So it's that, based off on this study, that's 200 people that don't have any friends at all, which that's kind of mind-blowing. It's a little bit more, it's like 200 and some, but making the math a little bit easier. However, basically what happened in 2020 isn't the only reason the US is stuck in the no friend zone. That's pretty funny. Other factors include the fact that Americans are marrying later than before and travel more, 2 trends that liked to self-isolation per the study. Modern Americans are also spending twice as much time with their kids than previous generations did, which has regulated other relationships to the sidelines. Throw in the fact that free time is increasingly consumed by work for many Americans, and it's no wonder that we're experiencing a bestie deficiency. The quality of companionship is also on the decline, as young Americans, especially males, are increasingly turning to family over friends in times of need. Per the findings of a whopping 36% of young men reach out to their parents first. So going back to the previous part, which was with work, I do understand that one. A lot of people have lives, they're busy working, and honestly, things are becoming way too expensive. Like, everything, inflation is just going up, and honestly, people think it's going to come to a stop, which I think it's going to just keep on continuing. You guys won't ever see a stop to it. The only time you'll see a stop to it is whenever they stop printing money. But if they don't stop printing money, essentially inflation is going to go up, and then people are going to have to work more, and when they work more, they're going to have less time to hang out with friends because they have bills they got to pay, basically loans they got to pay. And this is something that is just a part of life that you guys will experience. Some of you guys are actually probably going through this as well, that you're working your time away essentially, and normally the normal work week is 40 hours, but if everything's becoming more expensive, maybe you have to work 45 hours, maybe you have to work 50 hours. Some people even get a second job. So I do understand that you don't have enough time to hang out with friends just because you need to make a living to survive. The quality of companionship is also on the decline, as young Americans, especially males, are increasingly turning to family. I already read that. Reach out to their parents first when dealing with a personal problem, compared to just 17% in 1990. So people are becoming more dependent on family, which I think that's really good, just because family will always be there for you. Friends, sometimes they will be, sometimes they're not. No, the saying goes, you have tons of friends when you have tons of money, but when the money's gone, your friends are gone as well. Our increasingly digitalized society could also be blamed for the friendship plague, as studies have shown that social media use can cause feelings of isolation. And this is so true, just because, like how I was telling you guys, I was noticing my friend pretty much partying for his birthday, which I'm happy for him. He's celebrating his birthday, but it just shows you that, hey, I'm not a close friend to my friend. And it made me realize, oh, okay, well, that's the type of friendship. And with some people, when they see stuff like that, they're like, oh, okay, well, I don't have any friends. Like, they would have invited me if they were truly my friends. And this is something that people are becoming more and more aware of, The other thing is, with the thing of social media, social technology, just technology in general, is that people feel like they don't have the need to hang out with each other just because they see the other person's life on social media. Vox, 22% of millennials say they have no friends. Loneliness can be helpful unless it becomes chronic, which I have no idea how it can be helpful. I don't think loneliness is something that's really good. It is useful, especially like when you're trying to figure out your life, or you're like, okay, well, I just need to do this, and some people work really good with it. Other people can't handle it. They get like anxiety, or they just like, they get the deep sad. Talking in code here, obviously for YouTube purposes, but today members of the millennial generation are age 23 to 38. These out to be prime years of careers taking off and starting families before joints really begin to ache. Yet, as a recent poll and some corresponding research indicate, there's something missing for many in this generation: companionship, which this is very true. Essentially, companionship is one of the things that it makes you a little bit happy, and it uplifts your spirit. And I'm gonna just talk a little bit off my experience. So this is something I noticed with my relationship, that I was feeling a little bit lonely, and then I got into this relationship, and it's nice having the companionship. It's like, hey, you want to go watch a movie? Let's go do it. You want to go for some coffee? Well, guess what? We go out for some coffee, and it's just nice having that company. If you want to go out for a nature walk, well, you have that company to go out there and just hang out, spend the time with somebody that you actually enjoy with, and that companionship is nice. You don't feel lonely, you don't feel isolated, and this is what kind of happened during 2020. People become a little bit more isolated. Also, you have social media coming into play, and then just overall life is becoming a little bit easier, so people don't really need each other for things to get done. A recent poll from YouGov, a polling firm and market research company, found that 30% of millennials say they feel lonely. This is the highest percentage of all generations surveyed. So comparing this to the first article that we read, I think it was like 27, correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially it's almost a third of people are almost isolated and don't probably have fewer than 3 close friends. Furthermore, 22% of millennials in the poll said they had 0 friends, 27% said they had no close friends, 30% said they had no best friends, and 25% said they have no acquaintances, which that's really mind-blowing. And then if you guys look at the graph, if you guys see it, you have the total millennials. 3 in 10 millennials say they have always or often feel lonely. Total 21%. Millennials is 30%. Gen X is 20%, and then baby boomers is 15%. So total 21%. So I wonder if the poll responders have differing thoughts on what acquaintance means. I take it to mean people you interact with now and then. Essentially, acquaintance for this person, whoever wrote it, is just somebody that you know, somebody you work with, or somebody that you interact with. They're not a friend, they're just somebody you know. In comparison, just 16% of Gen Xers and 9% of baby boomers say they have no friends. The poll, which looked at 1,254 adults 18 and up, did not report results for the up and coming Gen Z, who reported high levels of loneliness on other surveys, or for the oldest adults in the country. And we should note, loneliness tends to increase markedly after age 75. Social isolation among the elderly remains a huge problem that will only grow worse as baby boomers age, so perhaps it's not the case that millennials are the loneliest of all. So the thing is, when you age, people start disappearing just naturally. So of course you're going to have less friends, just because it's just the cycle of life. Also, things just happen. People have lives. They start having grandchildren, and they start focusing on their grandchildren, so that it's just, you know, it brings them happiness. And the people that have are dependent on friends, well, essentially they're the ones that are probably feeling lonely. I could be wrong, that's just my personal thought on it. Still, the findings on millennials are surprising. Why do 1/5 of these 20 and 30 somethings say they lack friends? YouGov poll didn't measure why. If this generation is truly lonelier, that's concerning for a number of reasons. Research shows that loneliness tends to increase as we get older. What will happen to millennials who are already reporting high levels of loneliness when they reach old age? And I think it's going to be something that when you're starting off, you're going to be a little bit lonely, and then you kind of come to this acceptance part that, hey, if you're lonely, that's okay. And it becomes a little bit easier, and then you just focus on whatever task you guys want to get done, your goals, your dreams, your desires, and just start channeling. Keep your time occupied, stay busy. And this is something that I notice when I'm at work is I don't feel alone. I feel like, hey, I'm surrounded by plenty of people, and I'm actually really happy with it. I don't feel lonely or anything like that. I'm just focusing on work. So if you guys are feeling lonely, tip and advice is just stay busy, stay productive, do something that actually interests you, something that's fun, or just go out there and just go get a job, and then you're making some bank, and that's a pro. And then on top of that, you're probably not feeling lonely because you're busy. It also raises the question of whether everyone whose lonely millennials include is more isolated from spending more time on the internet, though there's also evidence that their internet can help lonely, isolated people connect with others. But while there are maybe some particular happening with millennials, it's also possible loneliness naturally ebbs and flows throughout life. A 1990 meta-analysis, a study of studies, which included data on 25,000 people, found that loneliness was highest among young adults, declined over middle life, and increased modestly in old age. And to kind of tie into that, essentially, when you're starting off after high school, everybody goes their own ways, so of course you're going to feel alone. But then you probably get into a relationship, start a family, and then you become happy with that family that people start. Of course, the dating scene, that's something so totally way different. I'm not going to cover it in this video, it's its own thing. But essentially, families aren't really happening anymore like how they used to. So there may be a cycle, and it might not be new. Many 30-somethings find it gets harder. New friends as they age, friends move, family and work obligations increase, and plans to reconnect get booted in the future on email chains. Most recently, in a 2006 paper, researchers in Germany found a peak of loneliness in a sample of 16,000 Germans at around age 30, another around age 50, and then increasing again at age 80. Anyways, I'm not going to read this whole article for you guys, but as you can see, as you start aging, you're going to become more and more isolated. I do think at some certain point you're going to become comfortable with it, you're going to come to peace with it, and it's just something that's natural, guys. So if you guys are feeling isolated or alone, or you realize that, hey, I don't have any best friends or close friends, you're not the only one that's out there, and that makes it a little bit easier. Like how I said, just stay busy, stay productive, find something that where you interact with people. If you're feeling alone and isolated, find yourself a job where you're like, okay, well, I have to interact with people, I'm making some money, and then whatever it is, like if you want to start a side business on the side, well, save up for that business, and then just make your life a whole lot better. And then eventually, like how I said, that saying, when you have all the money, you have all kinds of friends, but when you're broke, you're not going to have any friends. Like, essentially, friends are going to be around for the good times, but not the bad times. And this is something that you guys will notice. It's just what happens throughout life. It's natural, guys. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, and I'll go ahead and catch you guys